Hello, everybody. Welcome to the War and Peace Baseball Podcast. Here today with Farbode
Hello.
and Alex,
What's up?
as usual, and I'm also Alex. As for our MLB offseason stories this week, there are pretty much none. There's a few things we'll touch base on, but nothing huge for this week. That's just how it is sometimes. We'll go ahead and start off by talking about rumors regarding eliminating the shift in baseball and also adding pitch clocks. Just basic changes to the way the game runs, which is something you don't come across every single week, so we'll go ahead and talk about it.
So, with Rob Manfred as the new commissioner, he's proposing the pitch clock and the possibly eliminating shifts. I say you could do that to the shifts, but not like extreme. Because I know that the shifts help teams, but they've taken away a lot of the offense that's been part of the biggest, most exciting part of baseball in the past few years. But I play in a team, my favorite team plays in a division with one of the teams who shifts the most in baseball, the Astros, along with the Rays in the East. They shift the most. So, I guess I know why fans would be, for this shift for offensive reason. And for this, banning of shifts for offensive reasons. But, I'm kinda iffy on this. I say you could do it, but not complete.
So, the thing about shifts is that it's already kind of been a topic of whether it strays from the way the game is supposed to be played in the first place. And now people are kind of wondering if putting limits on the shift is going to be limiting the game in a different way. So it's a really confusing situation because the shift is used a lot, and I guess there are some advanced metrics that show that it probably does help a little bit, but I know that not all teams are completely sold on the shift in general, like full infield shifts where you have three infielders on one side.
There are some teams that don't use it at all. There are some teams that use it like the most in baseball. That's
right. It's
part of a stat now.
I guess
I'm completely for it. I'm completely for keeping it. I don't think it should be banned. It's just a strategy of the game. It's no different than using
I know it's a
ice
strategy
on your helmet or a rosin bag or batting gloves. It's just a way to improve your team's chances. And if you're a major league hitter and you can only hit the ball in one spot every time, then the team deserves to take advantage of that problem.
Right, because it's not really cheating when you put a shift on it. Because
anyway,
it's especially not cheating because it doesn't always work. There's a lot of complaints about. There's a lot of criticism about the way teams shift sometimes.
Basically, if you're a professional hitter, if you're a major league hitter, you should be able to see the shift. You should be able to make the adjustment to if you're Josh Hamilton, if you're hitting like everyone's on the right side, there's no one on the left side, you could even do that unwritten rule and bunt down the third base line.
Okay, if you're Josh Hamilton, you have to worry about putting the bat on the ball in the first place.
I agree. But I'm sorry, he's just the first person that came to mind because of the shifts. I could bring up Albert Pujols. Trout was shifted on this year.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Shifting on players that are very diverse and very professional hitters.
Yeah,
I mean,
Pujols, I agree. He rolls over a lot, but he's a really professional hitter. He knows what to do. He knows when he needs to, or how, or whatever to hit it to the other side.
But that's just another reason to support it because it's not a foolproof system. It's a risk.
Only reason I'm iffy on this is that I understand it's a strategy. I understand it's not cheating. I understand all that stuff because it can help your team. As a pitcher, I would love my defense to get extra outs when I accidentally give up a ball that should have been a hit.
And then you have to get into the difference between shifting and shading.
Yeah, exactly.
Infielders have been shading against different hitters since the beginning of baseball.
But I also
what is the difference then?
I'll go ahead and explain. Shading is when you reposition yourself relative to where your spot normally is. The shifts that normally occur in baseball that they would consider changing would be having for instance, 3 infielders on one side of second base.
But I mean,
Or playing infielders halfway into the outfield against left-handed hitters.
That's just an evolution of shading.
Yeah. It is an evolution of shading. That's what the difference is, though, in terms of what they are considering eliminating. I don't think they'd go as far to say you can't, you have to start in this spot every single time. Nothing that extreme.
What is the main, support for eliminating it? You guys?
Because of offense. I would assume it's because of offense. I haven't exactly read these articles of why he wants it, but I would expect it's because of offense, because if you looked at the total MLB offensive totals in the past 20 years, they've consistently gone down, and right now their pitchers are kind of dominating.
That's a lot to do with steroids, though, too.
Of course, I know the steroid era, I know that, but there's still professional hitters in the league right now. There's still great hitters in the league. It's not like there's terrible hitters now and there were great hitters with steroids 10 years ago. It's still great hitters, but then without steroids. I still think that people could still hit better if the shift could be a little worse, a little less extreme, but I don't know. That's why I'm iffy on this.
I also kind of took the perspective in thinking that it's because the shift isn't what the game was meant to be. It's not the way the game was supposed to be played.
Exactly.
It kind of strays from that whole idea of...
The game wasn't supposed to be played with a DH originally either, or release
right, which is, I'm not saying that I would be totally against it. It's just, I don't think that is the case. That is an argument for it. I don't agree with that, but that's another reason why it could be. Is this still the way baseball is supposed to be played if you have, 3 infielders on one side of the bag and your second baseman is playing where the right fielder plays and the right fielder's off who knows where. So it's stuff like that. Anyway, we should also talk about the pitch clocks that they are proposing right now, because that is a little bit of a different situation. It doesn't affect the actual production of players so much as just who knows what. It just affects game time. There's nothing... Actually, the only way that it would affect players, in my opinion, would be to kind of upset them and kind of in rushing them.
I'm against this. I'm against this 100%.
Yeah.
Because if you ask yourself this, for as long as baseball's been around, what's been the only sport without a general time, a general clock? This game's supposed to be over when it's over. I know this isn't this clock doesn't make the game end at a specific time, but I don't know, I'm a pitcher, I don't like being rushed, I like being on my own terms. Pitchers are supposed to be, the game's supposed to go after the pitcher's tempo, right? So, we got a tweet, a couple of days ago, and I asked about this, give us your opinion on the pitch clock MLB is trying to put, and one person said, if with the pitch clock, it would be, it would turn into more injuries for pitchers because they're forced to pitch when they're not ready, or more offense. But then if they're trying to make the game faster, I agree with this. If they're trying to make the game faster, when you're forcing a pitcher to pitch when he's not ready, it'll add to more offense, which will slow the game down even more because of the offense. And
that seems a bit extreme, in my opinion.
No.
I mean, these are worst case scenarios.
No, I mean, I of course there are worst case scenarios, but you have to bring that into account. I don't like this possibility because it takes away part of the meaning of baseball for me. Because
honestly, I think the reality is that baseball is falling behind football and basketball because of how slow and tedious the games are to the casual fan in this world.
Oh, no, I know. I understand that.
And I think that's a necessary change to keep the sport in competition, because right now it's just honestly too boring for the casual fan to enjoy on a consistent basis on TV. and that's where all the money is. So I think financially it's a move they should definitely make. I think that the 20-second proposed clock is a tiny bit too short. I'd make it 25 seconds, but I know it's a minor change, but it makes a difference. But I think that's completely doable for all pitchers to do. 25 seconds is more than enough time to get your sign, to take your looks and pitch. In my opinion, I mean, as a pitcher, I mean, I don't think I'd ever take any longer than that. So I know I'm not a major league pitcher, obviously, but just as a comparison for the time. And honestly, I think I understand what you're saying about how baseball is, good. It's famous, it's baseball because there's no time. There's no time when it's just innings. But I think it goes back to the shift. You have to evolve and change the sport for as time goes on. I think it's not like we're gonna be timing the game anytime soon. I just think I mean I don't prefer it necessarily. I don't like it, but I think it's a realistic decision to make.
Okay, so my problem with this, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up because it hasn't really been mentioned, is the fact that they're trying to regulate it as part of a rule set with this game. And part of my confusion is, what are you going to do if a batter's not ready in the box after 30 seconds or something? It's not going to affect anything.
You can go time.
Right. So there's a lot of things about it that don't seem like they'll really work. I think in general, Major League Baseball should encourage players to try to speed their game up a little bit, because there are players that really take way too much time, and I think that's something that needs to be dealt with on a team level, on an individual player level, and not at a Major League Baseball level.
What if it's like this? Like, let's say you take like a minute for either on the offensive or defensive side for the next play to occur, and you get either a ball, you got that out of ball or strike, depending on who makes the
No, see, that's just dumb, because that has nothing to do with, like,
you shouldn't be taking a minute.
You're penalizing players in a way that really does affect their whole at bat at that point.
You shouldn't be taking a whole minute between pitches.
I don't think it should be. I don't think it's a punishable offense though.
It's a delay of game.
Okay. I don't like the whole delay of game idea either, unless it's very deliberate. Because a lot of times delay of game isn't deliberate.
This is what I don't get.
A lot of it is about timing too. Like you throw out, you get a pitcher out of the rhythm sometimes as a hitter, taking your time like that, and sometimes batters at the plate, they just need
delaying the game.
It's not deliberately delaying the game. It's not delaying the game for the sake of delaying the game. It's delaying the game for the sake of improving your situation. I don't think. Okay, so you guys take more of a pitcher perspective. I'm thinking of it more from a batter's standpoint.
No, I know, but Rudy, and Yui, what I was trying to say is that, like, this is only going to be put in for AA and AAA this year. But I agree that you have to evolve as a game, everyone has to evolve with it. Because I'm looking at something right now. In 1950, the average time was 2 hours and 21 minutes. It's gone up.
Exactly.
It's gone up to 3 hours and 8 minutes.
Exactly.
For the casual fan, I guess But one thing I don't like about this, is that it's kind of putting like a general time. I understand it shouldn't take a minute, but it's like the Dodgers. I'm pretty sure it was the Dodgers last year or a couple years ago who got that delay of game because they were taking too long, because they were trying to get someone warm faster, but they were taking too long in between pitches. So, if you're delaying if you're being slow on purpose to make sure your bullpen arm warms up faster, then I'm completely behind this, but I don't like this on the basis of having, making the pitcher speed up his game, because I get it that baseball games are slow and not good for the casual fan, but basically this is like the introduction of replay last year. Replay was something that no one knew how it was going to work out.
Talk about delay of game.
No. I'm saying like
take like 5 minutes to review a play. That's the difference right there.
Exactly. The replays are going to be cut down too, I believe. I believe that they're going to be cut down too. But this is like the introduction of replays. No one knew how they were going to work out. There's still so many flaws in it. There's so much stuff they have to fix. They have to work out. That's why I think they're starting the clock out in the minor leagues right now instead of.
Replay did make the game better.
It made the game a lot better. It made the game a lot more it made the game a lot more pure, I guess you could say. But I'm still not 100% behind. I love replay, but I'm not 100% behind taking 6-7 minutes for to see if the guy's out at home.
I mean, that's a problem in almost every sport that has replay.
Oh no, I completely understand, but it's kind of it's just bad, I believe, and that's part of the delay of game too. Because it's part of the delay of the game. And if you're gonna bring in the pitch clock, fix this too. There's just a bunch of flaws that, like you said, Rudy, as a game you need to evolve, and there's so much more that the delay of game, that the replays have to work on, that MLB has to work on with the replay, and that's why I think they're starting the pitch clock out in the minor leagues to find out what flaws they have and try to get as good as possible until it gets to the major leagues.
So I do want to touch on a couple things that you brought up, Farbo. One of them being the bullpen time thing. I'm not for using your pitchers that are in the game to delay the game to get bullpen pitchers in. I think that's easily there's an easy fix there by regulating when you can bring a pitcher in based on how long they've been in the bullpen for. I think
not necessarily.
I think there's other ways to go around that. I think there's other ways to get.
Wait. Can you explain that more?
So I think
explain that to me more.
So for instance, they could say this pitcher has to have been warming up in this particular half inning to be able to come into the game at this point in time. You can't just throw him off the bench. Throw him in there.
Wait, that makes no sense.
If you bring him up, if you bring him up.
Wait, but that's giving a deliberate disadvantage to the defensive team.
Yeah, exactly. What about the matchups, like the manager matchups, that suddenly they're pinch hitting for a left-handed batter, like their next hitter. So then the manager is late in the game with a runner on second. The manager calls the bullpen to warm up their best left-handed arm. So
but even then they don't call for a lefty this like that quickly. Even they'll have a guy kind of ready.
Oh no, I know they'll have him ready. Like they'll like call down to the pen, just be ready, be stretched, be just in case. But
yeah,
I still don't. I think that.
I think that's more of what I'm saying is you have to have, if you don't have a guy ready at a certain point in time, you can't just call in like the middle of a jam, hey, get this guy up, he's gotta be in like one batter.
That's more the manager's decision. If the
I disagree 100%.
Well,
wait. That's a total thing about speeding up the game. So how can you be pro that, but against clock?
Okay, the thing is the manager should have a pitcher ready.
No!
Anyway, to some extent.
Calls for different things.
Yeah, exactly. Like, people call down to the bullpen for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of different things happening. I mean...
So I personally don't see any other way to keep that element of the game with a pitch clock then. Because a lot of that is relied upon getting that bullpen pitcher to warm up as fast as possible while taking as much time on the field as you can to get that guy.
No.
I don't think it happens that much as you think, because the pitchers warm up pitchers, once they enter the game, there's lots of commercial breaks. There's a commercial break for him to warm up.
Right, I know they still get like 8 pitches or whatever on the actual mound too.
Warm up just between the natural of just how the game works these days. And but going back to the clock, I do think that the 20 seconds that they're testing out is too short. That's an extreme measure, but I think a longer version of that, I think, is something that I could honestly see being implemented in the major leagues in the next couple.
Yeah, as you should.
I don't like it, but I think it's necessary.
Okay. So I think I'd like to kind of close up this whole discussion by saying because I haven't made my opinion very clear on this. I've just kind of been giving all these scenarios. In general, I think it does need to be regulated. I personally think that regulating at a team level or an individual player level would be more beneficial.
Agree. That's
Like in instituting team policies, like if you're not doing this, then something's gonna happen from directed from this organization, not from Major League Baseball, and especially if you're talking about it affecting, especially if you're talking about teams wanting to bring in more viewership to their TV deals or whatever.
Yeah,
that would be a more appropriate solution if teams want to improve or increase the number of people watching. You take some charge in that and tell your players exactly what to do. Also, I think just the fact that there's not a lot of reason to actually follow these rules. There's no penalty that's very clear at this point. It makes it very confusing, and it's hard to support because of that for me.
Okay, really? I did not know that. It's just a clock, so you can just.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what the penalty would be. If it is a ball or strike thing, then I'd be against that because that seems a bit extreme. But there's got to be some kind of solution to that if they were to.
There's an easy solution to it, but no one will agree with it.
One of the flaws
allow steroids back in the game.
Okay, we'll leave that conversation for another day.
Okay.
One of the flaws I find with this is that, I mean, I agree that getting your looks and getting your signs can be done within 25 seconds, but what happens to controlling the running game? After like 23, 24 seconds, the runner can take off because he knows he's either going to go pick you off or throw to first.
That's a great point.
There's not a lot of structure to it yet.
You can't, just like I said, there's a lot of flaws. You can't control the running game right now with this. And it gives a great, advantage to the offensive team, to the guys who are on base. So there's a lot of flaws. I'm waiting for the MLB to work some of this stuff out. And that's why it's starting out in the minor leagues.
Well said. So, also with our very slow week going on, we have a few other very, very small happenings going on that we're just going to go ahead and rattle off right now. I think I'll just go down the list and see if you guys have anything quick to say about them. The Nationals begin with signing Casey Janssen.
I like that move a lot after they threw away Tyler Clippard to free up money.
I like this deal.
Okay, good. We like it.
Basically with this deal is like they traded Clippard and they let Soriano walk, so they had to and they traded Detweiler to Texas, so they needed someone that can take the late innings. So this is a good smart move.
Good. Next, Chad Billingsley goes to the Phillies. Was that a minor league deal, or is he gonna be on their roster?
I think they're giving him a shot to I think they're giving him a shot to come back from his Tommy John 2013 and his flexor tendon surgery in 2014.
Yeah, I like these kinds of deals where you take these pitchers that are supposedly washed up and then give them a shot. You might right?
Especially because the Phillies have nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly. So Alexei Ogando is going to the Red Sox.
Same thing. Same type of move.
Basically, with Ogando's, when I first saw this deal, I didn't think that there would be a lot of money like guaranteed to him. I thought this would be a deal with incentives, and it was, and I like this deal for the Red Sox, especially because if he's healthy, he can be a pretty good pitcher.
Yeah. Paul Maholm and John Axford also get minor league deals, so not quite the same level of deal, but it's just something. They're still around.
Yeah.
Basically, what that means. Marco Scutaro was released by the Giants, though.
Interesting.
He was big 2012 hero for the Giants.
Marco Scutaro eras is over.
Time.
Just let
World Series champion.
Just figured we'd let you know what's going on with him.
He only had 5 games in 2000.
Second baseman. Yep. They're going with the panic man at second base.
Yeah, and that's a smart move.
Yep. And Gordon Beckham also.
The return.
Trader.
Yes, he's still going to be around.
Actually, I don't like him because, I mean, I'm not calling him a traitor because the Angels weren't going to sign him anyways.
No. They had no need for him.
Exactly. I don't think they even tried to get him.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that was our very
Short.
The week of molasses.
top stories.
Very
Yeah,
slow.
it will go down in history as the week of molasses.
Yeah.
I guess.
Calling it now.
All right, but we still have more to talk about on this podcast. We have our top 5 players at each position. This week we got catchers, and then after that we'll finish up with our teams of the week, the Tigers and the Red Sox. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. So let's go ahead and jump into our top 5 players at each position with the catchers.
Should I start?
Yeah, go for it.
My number 5 catcher is, I'm picking him because he's one of the guys that played against the Angels in the ALDS, the Salvador Perez. He's a great catcher. His offensive stats went down a lot in the second half because of the amount of games he played, the amount of he was severely fatigued. He started a record of games behind the plate with 158. I still consider him my 5th best catcher, other than the fact that he slowed down in the second half. He's a pretty good defensive guy too. My number 4, Mesoraco, Devin Mesoraco, I believe.
Yes.
He had a pretty damn good 2014 season. He finished 273 average, 25 homers, and 80 RBIs. He led all catchers in homers, and he played just 114 games. I saw something when they signed him. It was 4 years, $28 million. I thought
it's a bargain.
Yeah, I thought they could have gone a lot more for that kind of player. I was surprised, especially with the way this market is going right now. I thought he could have gone even more, because even the guys that shouldn't be getting paid are still getting paid, like getting overpaid. So I thought he would be getting a lot more. My number 3 is a very Yadier Molina, who the past 3 years would have been number 1, but he's been getting injured. Defensively, there's not much to say about him. He's an amazing defensive catcher.
Always has been.
Yeah, exactly. Offensively, he's a good contact hitter who knows how to use the whole field. He's one of those professional hitters that we talked about who knows how to beat any shift that's on him. So he's my number 3. Number 2, Buster Posey. If this was which catcher I loved the most, I would put Posey number 1. But his pop is never going to be the same that it was in 2012, and that's completely fine with the amount of production the Giants get anyways, especially in that ballpark too. His bat's still excellent by catcher standards. And the quality of his defense is still great, and he's been considered to be moved to first base to keep his offensive production.
Basically just to keep him healthy.
What? Yeah,
basically
keep him healthy and keep his offensive production, keep him for more years, basically. And, if they do that, the Giants are gonna be missing out big time defensively. And he's a great guy all the pitchers love him too, except Tim Lincecum, who uses the other guy for catching. But I think he just makes the pitcher better. He's just a great number 2. He's my number 2 guy. Number 1, I would have, Jonathan Lucroy, he's a guy who basically not two years ago, but at some point he just jumped onto the scene as a great player. He's consistently getting better as a hitter. He's great. He's pretty good pop for a catcher, and the only thing I think he could improve is controlling the running game. But other than that, I think he's the top catcher, because he was in the MVP talks last year, just like Molina the past few years before that. But I think Lucroy is a young guy who's my number 1 catcher.
All right then.
I'm gonna go Russell Martin. Number 5, he's outstanding defensively, outstanding pitch framer, and he's a pretty good offensive catcher when healthy. I think he's definitely up there as one of the best offensive catchers. when, he's, not dealing with his injury, plagueness, I guess. Number 4, I'm gonna go with, probably Yachtier at the moment, just because, I think he's gonna start declining now a little bit every year after, he kind of peaked. He's entering, his, mid-30s. He's had a few injuries lately, and, he's still outstanding defensively, but he's not quite as good offensively as he used to be, and I don't see him really returning to his peak levels. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Devin Mesoraco. He is outstanding offensively as for a catcher, which is pretty rare, I would say, today in the major leagues. This is kind of the major leagues of great defensive catchers. You have a lot of really, really good pitch framers, but not that many sluggers. And he, like you said, led catchers in home runs. I think he led them in RBIs too, I believe. And he didn't even play the whole season. So,
Yeah.
2, I'm gonna go with Jonathan Lucroy, who had a great all-around year. He's already, I think 29, so he's not quite that young, but, and he's a little bit of a late bloomer, but he's, just outstanding all-around catcher. I think any team would, love to have him. He definitely, was the best player on a near playoff team. Last year, a Brewers team that led their division in first place for most of the season, and he's just a stud. Number 1, I'm gonna go with, the great Buster Posey. Not Buster only. His numbers are just all around. Actually, he led catchers in RBI, if I'm mistaken. He, right like you said, Farbo, his power I don't think will ever be, 30 home run guy, but it's still really good for a catcher. Really good average RBI and runs numbers for a catcher. Solid defensively. He's a stud. And I think, he's only 28 entering the season. And I think, this might be, I think this could be his best year because he's now, 2 years away, I think, from that leg injury. And, he's a great player. Best catcher in baseball, in my opinion.
Alright, well said. I'll go ahead and kick off my list. I probably would go with Salvador Perez as my number 5. It's kind of close in my head. In terms of durability, he's definitely the best if you want a catcher that will last you a whole season. I mean, nothing outstanding about him in my opinion. He's got pretty decent defense. But it's just the durability that's very impressive with him, and he's pretty consistent overall. But I also kind of want to throw Kurt Suzuki into that mix. He did a great job.
Top 5.
Replacing, sleeper, kind of. He did a great job replacing Joe Mauer as the catcher of that team, even though Joe Mauer's still there. He's always been a decent catcher, but last year I feel like we saw probably the best of what he had to offer. I kind of take that back actually. We saw signs that he could be have one of the best averages among catchers, because he was absolutely impressive last year. There's nothing about him in the past that would have told me that he would have had the season he would have had with the Twins. I believe it was an all-star also, which is worth mentioning. And, very solid catcher overall. And I think his breakout season, in a way, was what, in my mind, put him in my number 5 spot. The rest of my list, more of the same guys. I got Devin Mesoraco at my number 4 spot. Offensively, just absolutely insane. It's one of the biggest bargains out there too for the Reds. And in terms of power and RBIs, stats like that, not in terms of average as much, but still definitely one of the
high 200s.
Yeah, definitely one of the top hitters in all of baseball among anybody, which is very tough at a very weak overall catcher position. Past these top 5, I feel like it's worth mentioning. There's not too many guys that really shine and kind of break their way into this list, in my opinion. So,
can I ask you a question?
yeah.
Considering their careers, I don't really understand how Kurt Suzuki is higher rated to you than Russell Martin. Because Kurt Suzuki has had literally one valuable offensive season, and now he's 31. I don't see how he's really should be considered a better.
I don't know, I believe in I call it his breakout season last year, where he really showed what he's capable of, and in my mind, that's enough of a sign to show that he's not done either. Russell Martin, I do know he has a much better history, and you've mentioned his injuries and stuff. He's probably more a complete catcher in terms of his leadership, and his offense
was better last year, probably.
Better than Chris Suzuki's.
Got that contract.
Yeah,
This isn't the list of biggest bargains.
I'm not talking about a bargain. I'm saying, I don't recall Russell Martin as being the offensive force he once was. Maybe that's just because of the injuries, but in my head, that was
still better last year, probably.
Than Kurt Suzuki?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe in terms of power, he hits like 20 home runs, but I don't think it's
the
same level of production. Maybe
it's
probably comparable.
He had a better average.
Russell Martin had a higher average too?
But Kurt Suzuki hit 288, and Russell Martin hit 290. Russell Martin had 11 home runs. Kurt Suzuki had 3. Russell Martin had 67 RBI.
Think about the ballpark.
Suzuki had 61.
The ballparks they played in.
The power is not what concerns me.
Yeah, Suzuki played in Target Field.
So he doesn't play every game in Target Field. It's 50-50.
Yeah, but it's
right.
3-11 has nothing to do with your home stadium.
I definitely admire Russell Martin as a catcher in terms of his leadership, and he's somewhat productive. I just feel like the season that Kurt Suzuki had is very admirable in what he was able to accomplish, basically taking over that role as the Twins catcher. And I mentioned before that Salvador Perez would probably be my number 5 just because of his durability also. I'd consider Perez more valuable than Martin. Anyway, so it was just kind of a way to get him in to this conversation. More than anything. I do agree. I do see what you're saying though. Where was I? I believe I was on my number 3. I have Jonathan Lucroy as my number 3. That's probably a bit shocking, but he was definitely one of the MVP candidates last year and pretty much the force of the Brewers alongside Carlos Gomez, I'd go as far to say. And, there's not enough you can say about this guy. He's one of the most complete catchers in terms of his offense and defensive abilities. I just don't see him getting to a higher level than he is at this point in his career, though.
I agree.
And the next 2 catchers just are at a higher level already, in my opinion. One is Yadier Molina as my number 2 guy. He had a pretty rough season in terms of injuries, but his growth as a hitter, more than anything, has been a sign for me that he is definitely not done. He's gonna be a productive hitter for quite a long time, because when he came up, he was pretty much only defense. There was nothing about his offense that got him in the lineup. He only played because of his defense, and he was one of the most solid catchers at that point even. Then when he started to pick it up, he started to become one of the better hitters in the game overall in terms of average, and developed a bit more power. And I only see that in a way that doesn't decline. He's becoming more complete in my mind as time goes on in terms of what he's capable of doing. I think the only reason that we think he's not going to be able to produce at a better offensive level is because of injuries, which is
and his age.
Bound to happen. Well, injuries come with age. That's basically what age means. I don't think just the fact that he's a couple years older will mean that he's going to be a worse hitter. I think it's tough to be a catcher as you grow older to keep yourself healthy. But if he can do that, then I have no reason not to put him on my number 2 spot. My number 1 is Buster Posey again, and that is pretty much because, first of all, I love Buster Posey in general, and second of all, he's always had that MVP complex.
Right.
Whenever he plays, he can basically carry a team in ways that not many other people can in all of baseball. And I think that's a really interesting quality. Of course, you got the power and the average, as pretty much the last 3 guys on this list have displayed over the last season and a few seasons. But it's that ability to carry his team to where it's been 3 World Series in the last,
without him, they have.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he struggled in the playoffs for a little bit last year, but without him, they wouldn't have even been there. So.
Right, he's definitely one of the few guys that's capable of carrying a team like that. And, you can't say enough about his power and his average and his abilities, but, he's just always an MVP contender in my mind because of what he's able to do for his team. So, that is all we have for our lists. Any other mentions you guys want to bring up before we move on? Whoa. Yes.
Can I throw out Matt Wieters into the discussion when healthy? I have no idea how he'll come back from Tommy John, but I think at the beginning, when he played last year, he was definitely, I think, in that top 5 contention.
Yeah, I had him in my mind there too. I just didn't feel it was fair considering he didn't play.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Also, Brian McCann, only 2 years ago, you would have had him in this list. Probably no doubt about it. So, things can change. Hopefully he has a bounce back year. As Yankees fans, I'm sure that will, I'm confident that will happen. So, yeah. Farbode, any other catchers you'd like to mention? Nope. Okay. So, we are gonna move on to our teams of the week. We'll go ahead and start with the Tigers. They, let's see.
The Tigers?
Yeah.
There's so much to say about the Tigers.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing.
I would give their offense an F. I mean,
give their offense an F. Okay. Okay. I was gonna say there's a lot of things to talk about. I would not have not by any means.
Okay.
There's a lot of different components about their team that are easy to pick at individually. It's hard to talk about them as a team as a whole.
Yeah. I'm gonna start off by saying their offense right now, when all their guys are healthy, is pretty damn good. But their offense right now also has to score 25 runs a game because of their starting rotation after Price and
who's their third outfielder?
And their bullpen. Their lineup right now.
Their third outfielder, they have Cespedes.
They have Kinsler.
Oh, Cespedes, that's who it is.
Kinsler, Davis, Cabrera, Martinez, Cespedes, JD Martinez again, Castellano and Avila and Iglesias as their top starting 9.
Who is Castellano?
Nick Castellano.
The third baseman.
Oh, Castellano.
Yeah, Castellano.
My bad. Okay, so right now I think this team, their starting rotation especially with Scherzer gone, they have Price who's good. But I remember at the beginning of the year, he was really inconsistent last year. I don't know how.
Well, I believe he made a couple of our top 5, so I'm not complaining about
No, I'm not complaining.
He had some bad moments last year, but
there's nothing to complain about with David Price.
And then
so.
Verlander, who's...
No, you got Anibal Sanchez.
Oh, no, I know. Verlander, Sanchez, Shane Green, and Simone. But I think after Price, it's kind of like it's after Price and Sanchez, because Sanchez is pretty good. But after that, I don't know how the rest of the rotation is going to do. This team's a better version of like the 2009 and before Texas Rangers, whose offense had to outscore they basically tried to outscore the other team, then pitch and outscore. Basically, they have to score a lot of runs because their bullpen is god awful. And their starting rotation after Price and Sanchez is just a toss-up. Their offense is pretty good, but other than that...
One thing about their offense, since we're on it.
Yeah.
I agree that on paper it's excellent.
It's not enough.
But it is not enough anyway. But almost all their hitters are above 30 years old.
Yeah, they're all... Except
have an impact. Like, Iglesias is not... Or
Castellanos is still...
Yeah,
he's still young, and Cespedes, I think, as far as we know, is still under 30. But...
As far as we know.
Yeah, I mean, Cabrera, Martinez, Kinsler, Davis, I don't know how many good years those get, many more... I don't know how many more top years those guys are gonna have.
Yeah, if you're Nebraska right now, you have to go get some bullpen arms, maybe another starting pitching guy, because if they want to win, they have to win within the next few years, because all those guys are going to eventually start going down.
I think they had an opportunity to win the World Series during this stretch.
I personally think they missed their window altogether.
I think they blew their window to win the World Series.
Because I look back a couple years at their starting rotation, and they had, I think, 4 guys that were probably some of the best in the game. You consider, Scherzer, Verlander, Sanchez right there is one of the best we got. They had Fister, and they also had Porcello, who was on the rise, not quite what he is today, but still pretty darn good rotation. Pretty darn good side guy.
Porcello was pretty damn good last year, actually.
No, but he's talking about before that.
Talking about a couple years ago when Verlander was still relevant.
It all went downhill when they traded Fister. Dombrowski has just made... Is that Durkett? Who's the GM?
Dombrowski.
That's the Orioles.
Durkett is Orioles. I think all his moves since the Kinsler trade have been, in my opinion, poor. I think the Miguel Cabrera extension was an insane overpay.
Yeah.
Our guy was like 32. I mean, that just screams A-Rod or Pujols contract right there. V-Mart, I love V-Mart. He's been the best hitter in baseball last year. And, but giving him, I think, a 3-year deal, I don't know if that's gonna be valuable. I mean, Carlos Beltran got a similar contract and he was awful last year after having, like a rejuvenation season, and he got that contract award. And I think, basically they got rid of Smiley, Austin Jackson, and Scherzer to get David Price in a sense. And that just doesn't really make sense. They should have just kept the guys they had. They're probably gonna lose Price in free agency after the season.
Exactly.
Porcello for Cespedes, I think you definitely gain an excellent hitter, a good hitter. I don't know if he's excellent. A good hitter,
he's a force in any lineup.
A decent fielder, but you give up your arguably second best pitcher. I don't think that, you're just filling one hole by making another, which I don't think is ever a good move. And like you said, Farbo, their bullpen once again will be terrible, and that is the biggest mistake they've made in this era. They've never tried to really shore up that bullpen. They've never been successful at it, and I think that caused them to miss their World Series window. All they needed in those years, in my opinion, was a solid bullpen. Getting solid bullpens is not a difficult thing for a contender to do. And instead they spent their time signing guys like Jobber Chamberlain and Phil Cope.
I mean, look at what the Angels did with their bullpen. Their bullpen went from terrible to pretty productive.
In 1 year.
In 1 year, exactly. And that's what, their bullpen, I believe, was the number one. I know their offense was pretty good. I know their starting rotation was actually pretty solid. Their bullpen was the number one reason they made it to 98 wins. As a fan,
wow.
That's the only reason. Because the 3-4 years before that I watched, they led the league in blown saves probably every time. It was terrible. It was just hard to watch. Their bullpen was improved significantly, and they became great.
Well, the Tigers with their bullpen, they definitely tried and they failed. They got Joe Nathan. They got Joe Nathan. That was supposed to be okay. They finally got a closer that can do something for them. Didn't really work out the way they wanted to.
They let Ben Paul walk to San Diego last year.
Right. He wasn't really good on the Tigers either, though.
No, I know, but he's better than the options they have right now.
Who? Sorry, who?
Benoit.
Oh, yeah. He's okay.
No, I know, but he's better than the options they have right now. But it's basically, okay, here. this is what I'm going to ask you guys. They're better than the Twins, obviously. Are they better than the Indians?
Their bullpen or their team?
Their team.
Yes.
I don't know if really they're that much better. They may be a little better. Not considerably. They probably have
the Royals.
Yes.
Yes.
I think the Royals, honestly, I'm sorry to any Royals fans listening, but you guys might just have one fluke here. Your team just isn't like that talented, really, and they definitely didn't get better this offseason.
Are they better than the White Sox?
I'm gonna go ahead and say they're pretty neck and neck.
I don't think they're better than the White Sox.
I think that division's gonna be 4 teams neck and neck the entire year.
And it's been like that. For most of the years, the past like 3-4 years, it's been like that, except in the last month the Tigers have gone up.
There's no one great, there's no one terrible, except I think the Twins aren't awful. I mean, they're not gonna be contention. I think the Indians, White Sox, Tigers, Royals are gonna, any of those teams could win the division.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. But that's the thing. The Tigers used to be, that division, like you said, that's almost always been the case. There's usually been at least 3 teams that have been out.
What I remember is that
the division, and the Tigers usually, came up and, like you said, showed themselves to be the best team at the end of the year. And I just don't see that in this team. This is a team I could see, they kind of remind me of the Rangers going into this season when they were terrible. Where I could see a couple of injuries. I know the Rangers had a lot of injuries, but I could see just some injuries here and there just destroying this team.
Really?
They're not deep at all. They're not a deep team.
Basically what I see this team is like, their past few years, they started out really cold like the Dodgers. But eventually they found a way to pick themselves up, right? And even a little, and then they became neck and neck with the Indians a couple years ago, the Royals the Royals last year, and the White Sox 2 years ago, I believe. 3 years ago. They were neck and neck with like a different team every year. And then they eventually, around September, they just like stepped on the gas pedal and took off. But, I mean, if you look at their win totals, they're not that great in the past few years. And honestly, if they start off cold this year, I don't think their starting rotation bullpen has what it takes to step on the gas pedal and take them up.
I mean, their starting rotation is awful. I mean, Simone had one fluke. I'm sorry, but his year last year was a complete fluke.
He had a 4 ERA. Come on. He can't even be counted as a fluke. It wasn't that great.
His first half
was pretty good, but other than that.
Shane Green, I'm a Yankees fan, so I know a decent amount about him. He only really pitched the last third of the season. He was good. He was pretty good, but that was completely out of nowhere. No one thought anything about him like that. He could be the next Doug Fister. He could also be the next guy you never hear about ever again. There's a chance he
could also be the next what's-his-face.
Yeah, exactly. He could be the next what's-his-face. He could be the next Doug Fister.
The top story.
And then
trying to come back.
Verlander was arguably the worst pitcher in the entire major league last year.
Oh no, yeah.
So, I mean,
if you wanna,
3 complete question marks.
If you want to throw up the Justin Verlander punching bag and take a few cracks at him, I don't know if that's worth your time, but if you guys feel like you want to, then go for it.
There's no punching bag. The guy that's our pitcher who's over 30 years old. That's what happens.
Okay, no matter anything that he's fine. He's making millions and he has Kate Upton, so.
Yeah, good. So basically,
I have nothing against Justin Verlander. I'm just saying.
I think basically he's like we said about the professional hitters. I think he's a professional pitcher. He should at least know what he has and what he doesn't have, and try to take what he has.
He's just Lincecum. It's the same thing that happened to Lincecum.
CC Sabathia.
CC Sabathia declined a little bit later, but it's the same thing. I would agree.
The thing about CC is that he's had. Same with Verlander. They've had so many innings on their arm.
Yeah.
It's basically what they should do.
Felix and Kershaw, too.
Exactly.
Eventually,
yeah.
Yeah, I just look at this team, their starting 9. They got a lot of guys that I would feel comfortable putting out there every single day. They're guys that know how to get the job done, know how to keep their team in contention and turn it on when they need to.
But then they have to score 25 runs a game to...
I mean, anytime you have Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, and Cespedes now, I have no idea how he's going to be, but at the center of your lineup, you have chance to win any game, anytime.
I was watching something.
You got Kinsler up there too. He's one of the best second basemen in the game. Kind of underrated in a way, but he's definitely been one of the most consistent over the past 4 or 5 years. So.
I was watching something about the Tigers saying that this is what they said. They had the lead going to like the 6th and 7th innings for a lot because of their offense, obviously. And they had Scherzer, Price, Verlander. At times he was decent. But and then their bullpen just gave it up. If their bullpen, they need to get someone else. That's all I'm saying about the Tigers. I've already said their bullpen's got awful. Yeah.
The Kinsler trade for Prince Fielder was a great move, but
they clear up a lot of money.
I don't know. They're a team on the decline. I think it's that simple.
Yeah, I haven't ruled them out for this season yet. I haven't made any decisions, and in my head, they're not out of the mix yet. They're still kind of in there, but they definitely missed their window to actually take it all and win the World Series, which is what the goal is, isn't it?
That's what it's all about.
It's all about the rings. Go Giants. So, we should go ahead and move on to our other team of the week. A team that is hoping to contend after a pretty crappy season last year, the Red Sox. Lots of things have happened with that team in this offseason, so let's get going.
Let's see. The Red Sox, their offense, if it plays to expectation, I think their offense is pretty good, as always.
I think it's outstanding.
Yeah, it is.
Mookie Betts is he's pretty consistent, and he only had 468 at bats last year. Dustin Pedroia is Dustin Pedroia, obviously. Ortiz, you can't say anything else about this.
I don't know if Dustin Pedroia is obviously Dustin Pedroia.
Not from injuries. I think these guys are all gonna go through. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he's in his decline year yet.
I still think I always think of Dustin Pedroia as
a professional hitter.
A 300 hitter at least.
He hit 287 last year, but
okay, well, for the most part, that's how I think of him. He's just one of those,
Oh no, I get it.
He goes all out every single time he's out there. He's able to perform at a high level.
All out. He dives. It's crazy the games that he plays. The games I actually watch him play, it's crazy. Okay, Hanley Ramirez batting 4th. I think that's a good bat. Pablo, a good bat. Rusney Castillo, he's an intriguing bat because
intriguing.
Yeah, he was one of the big Cuban guys they signed to a big deal late last summer, and they expect him to be one of the great guys.
They want to turn that question mark into an exclamation mark.
Exactly. It's not even a question mark. It's just how is it?
There's always a question mark. Come on.
It's how is it going to work out?
That's a question mark.
So what?
You said there's no question mark. We just want to see.
He had a sleep apnea surgery or whatever that. I read something, he was considering retiring if he didn't get that fixed. Because, he couldn't play well last year because he was just dizzy and tired the whole.
Who is this?
Napoli.
Okay.
And then Xander Bogaerts, I think.
One of the best young players still in my mind. He has a lot of potential.
Still has some work.
He was pretty disappointing last year, but I still believe in his potential.
Christian Vasquez, I mean, he didn't get that many bats last year, but he's I don't know what to say.
He's the catcher, right?
Yeah. Basically, their starting rotation right now, I don't know what to make of it because they don't have a clear ace. Rick Porcello might end up being their ace, and that, I don't know how I would feel about that.
No, their ace is, who's the guy who said he's gonna win the Cy Young?
Joe Kelly.
Joe Kelly, yeah.
Joe Kelly, he's
okay. Yeah.
Joe Kelly is their hardest thrower too. Their average speed is consistently 90 to 91, and then Kelly's average fastball speed is 95.
He's not good.
Yeah, he's not even that good. He's 4 ERA last year.
Again, potential.
Potential, but how many years are you going to give him potential? How many?
Well, as long as he keeps throwing 95 miles an hour, he's got potential.
Well,
rah.
And that's what Frieri throws.
That's 95. What I was going for.
He sucks. So, I'm sorry, Ingo Fair.
Well, okay, that's a little bit different, but okay.
Yeah.
What did Ernesto Fieri ever do to you? You insult him on every podcast. Do you like steal your girlfriend or something?
Yes.
I mean, Jesus, man. You hate him with like some.
Oh no, I dislike him.
Yeah.
You dislike him, okay? That's all he gets after all that. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ernesto.
Personal apology right here.
Yeah, but
back to the Red Sox pitching rotation though. That's been the center of a lot of conversation around baseball. Is nobody's really against it, but it makes people question: do teams actually need that true ace? And you look at a lot of the teams that win World Series, and you think, yes, obviously they do, but to get there, it's a very stay afloat type of rotation in a lot of people's minds. But I think a lot of people don't realize if it all goes right, then that's one of the best rotations in all of baseball, period.
I think that's quite the
that's a bold,
because they have a lot of guys that if they've never had seasons that rocketed them to a number 1 or 2 spot.
I don't know what to do about Clint Buchholz because he's this rocky guy. He's one amazing year and he has one terrible year. So
Buchholz is definitely not one of those guys that's at the top of that rotation right now. But these are all pitchers that at some point were projected to be 1 or 2 guys in their respective rotations. You put them all on this team and it's kind of this weird mix of 3-4 guys all pitching.
So there's just as good a chance that it fails terribly.
I don't think it'll fail terribly. I think they have a safe chance of being pitchers that can give their team, their offense that we've been talking about so fondly,
I'm really surprised
a chance to win.
They didn't sign Scherzer.
Yeah.
I guess they felt confident in what they had.
They get James Shields.
They could. I think they're confident in the fact that they don't need a true ace, which is a little bit different than most teams' points of views. But I'm not going to hate on them for it because I don't know how it's going to go.
Basically, I think if you have an ace to lead your rotation through the season, that's great. Through the playoffs, in a short series, it's pretty good. But like you said, if you have 5 solid starters, I guess that could make up.
They don't have 5 solid starters.
No, they don't. They have like 3-4 solid starters, but I don't know if that can make up for not having ace as true, like, obvious ace. But basically, I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the Tigers. Do you think they're better than the Orioles?
Yes.
Yes.
The Orioles are gonna not be. I really think they're a huge.
Do you think they're better than the Yankees?
You look at. Okay, I want to look at the Orioles for a sec. Chris Tillman is technically their one guy.
Yeah.
No,
same kind of situation.
Gossman's their one guy probably going to next.
Well, no.
Tillman didn't even do that
last year when they won the division, Tillman was technically their one guy.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Are they?
That's reassuring.
That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know.
That's reassuring for the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What's funny is that this division, they might even have the best rotation.
I like the Yankees rotation and the Rays rotation a bit more.
Okay, I forgot the Rays because they're not even gonna be good next year.
They have a pretty damn good rotation though.
But yeah, it's true. And the Yankees I think the Yankees is extremely risky, but it's the same thing. Everything goes right.
I mean, they have that defined number 1 guy, which always helps in Tanaka. You still don't know how his health's gonna be, but he's definitely that number 1 kind of guy. And they have some other guys that are in that same boat, like Ivan Nova. He's kind of in that same boat as most of the Red Sox.
He's not coming back to like June, but yeah, I see your point.
Are they?
Oh, so late June. Okay.
Sorry.
And they also have
Are they better than the Yankees?
I would say their offense is.
Are they better than the Blue Jays?
I'll say it's close. The Blue Jays have a decent staff. Burley, Dickey, Stroman. They have another highly touted.
Sanchez.
Sanchez. They have another guy on top of that who's in the minors.
What about the Rays?
No, the Rays have such
so the Red Sox and the Blue Jays are going to lead the division.
I mean, fair, if we're doing this by offenses, And I don't know if we can really just step back the Orioles this much because their offense should still be really good next year.
It's not going to be as good as the Red Sox in my mind.
Or the Blue Jays.
I'm gonna
Blue
go
Jays
off
maybe.
what
I don't know.
said 2 weeks ago.
I think of the Blue Jays lineup more, and I don't know exactly what they have around some of their core guys. I mean, you have a great core, and then I look around, I'm like, I'm not feeling the rest of their team.
I'm gonna go off of what I said 2 weeks ago, about the Orioles. I'm not the Orioles, about the Eastern Division in the American League. I'm gonna jump sports and go to basketball. The last 2-3 years, the Eastern Conference, their top 2-3 teams were like the Bulls, the Heat, and another team, and the Pacers. And then every other team has been just meh, like Rudy loves that word meh. And then they're like the 7th and 8th seeds have been under 500. So, maybe you could get that out of the Eastern Division. Maybe their top team is gonna be a mid-80s to high 80s team. I don't think any of these teams is clear, they're gonna win over 90 games. I think they're all mid-80s. And not all, but like, I think any one of their contenders is gonna be mid-80s.
To summarize, it's a lot like the Central. There's a lot of teams that have the potential to take that division, but not
I don't know.
Not in the way the Nationals have been able to.
I don't know if any of the teams in the East are as good as the top 4 in the Central.
Oh no, they're not.
I think the Red Sox match up against some of those Central teams.
They can match up.
I think they match up.
They can't beat them in like.
I think in the past,
series.
The AL East used to be that dominant division with most of the big power houses. You know, you got your Yankees and Red Sox.
Would you
that
take
were
the Tigers
more productive?
Red Sox in a 7-game series?
No.
No, I wouldn't.
Who?
The Tigers over the Red Sox in a 7-game series. No,
I would never take.
I take the Red Sox.
But then I might take the White Sox over the Red Sox in a 7-game series because they have that Chris Sale, they have a decent rest of the rotation, and
Samardzija.
Yeah,
they have Samardzija. They have the pretty good rest of the rotation, and they have a pretty good offense now too. So I would.
If that's the ALCS, I'd be really disappointed in that.
It's the Angels.
Battle of the Sox.
Could it be the Angels? I think the Angels could make the playoffs, but it could be the Mariners and another team. Because the Mariners are just a scary team right now.
I think that the teams in the AL West are just going to shoot each other in the legs until they have nothing to go off of for the postseason.
Why? There's only 2 good teams, in my opinion, in the AL West.
A really fun series, 7-game series, would be Angels Mariners.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Except,
also, I think the Rays, their rotation has a chance to give a lot of those other AL East teams a bit of hell just anytime they go down to face any of those 4 top guys that they have. So
I agree.
even if it's not a complete team that the Rays have, it's still a pretty
the Rays?
It's a pretty decent threat.
The Rays?
In terms of their rotation, yeah. The Rays.
I think they might be that they always have that chance to be the surprising team.
Yeah.
But I think right now, especially because of all the trades they made, they could end up being one of the biggest threats as a spoiler late in the year for contending.
Like I think that's similar to what the Cubs did last year with all their prospects that they brought up and just absolutely wrecked some teams that were in contention. So those are always fun to watch. But the Red Sox were down at the bottom last year. I don't think that's going to be the case for them this year. At the very least,
because there are clearly some teams in that division that are worse than them. But I don't think they're not the clear cut out first place.
I just have a feeling we're going to be talking about them a little bit later on in our Teams of the Week next year. They'll be a little bit higher up.
Oh, no, yeah.
In our charts. So that's a good sign for them anyway. I think that's about all we have for today though. So, As usual, you can ask us anything, any questions you have by tweeting us at WPB_podcast or emailing us at warandpeacebaseball@gmail.com. Feedback is very much appreciated. That's pretty much the only thing that...
person who tweeted us last week about our question, and we'll take as many tweets as we'll answer anything.
Right. So feedback overall would be amazing from anybody. That's all we could ask. That's just what this, I think, would make this podcast
even better,
a lot more fun. Yeah. So that's all for now, though. See you next week. Hopefully back in our Sunday slot. A little bit late this week, but we should be shooting for a more consistent release day. So until then, see you next time.
Adios.